Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, but most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently listening to, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number 1, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. In a moment, I'm going to transition across to the Hangout, as we do have a couple of guests who I will introduce. But before I do, if you are in the live stream now, please share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. With that, I'll say my first hello to Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing, Sleeping Warrior?
Good morning. I is good. Had a good night's sleep last night, so I'm up, ready to go.
Excellent stuff. And I don't know if you can hear us. See you there, Auntie?
I am, yeah.
Good to have you here, my friend. Good to have you here. So, epic day yesterday. Great presentation, you two. Well done, well done. Chris Seeley also, if he's listening. Well done to you, Chris. But how did you feel it went?
Well, I slept very easy after presenting it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought that Chris gave a really concise, and he made it as quick as possible. We had to make shortcuts. We couldn't show both models, like on the ball and on the flat. But if you show the ball and it contrasts massively to what the flat one is, by implication, it kind of means that you don't need to show the flat model because we were showing it on screen evidence-wise. You don't really need to model the flat if it is flat. And it looks flat, and it was massively different to the ball model. And I think Chris did the best he could with. I mean, we could have gone on for hours and hours and hours talking about all the houses. We could have made it into a Miles Davis show. We could have spent hours on it, and we didn't. We tried to keep it as concise as possible, but it's hard to produce stuff that's very concise to keep people interested in watching what they're doing. But the key point was that the lighthouse at the far left-hand side of Isle of Man was evidenced in the photo, and that kind of shows that Ireland is in the background, evidentially, empirically. You can't go against maths if you can't go against evidence if maths tells you something else, but the evidence is contradictory. And I think between the three of us, we did the best we could with what we had. And I had a bit of a weird afternoon yesterday afternoon. I nearly pulled out on it last night because of circumstances, but given what happened yesterday with me, I think it went excellent. I really do. And my hat goes off to everybody that was involved because we all worked together because it was an interesting observation. I think Chris was ace. I think Ranty's work was ace. And Nathan for putting up with me for ages. And between the four of us and everybody else that's been involved, including the trolls that were attacking us, we needed all this. We needed this attraction. We needed this attention because we needed to be vetted to see as strong as what it appears. And I'm happy to say it stood the test of time. And I'm happy with the results of it. No one's been able to debunk it yet. And I'm looking forward to those that try. We're going to try and swerve away from it in this show because it's been beaten to death for a while. We can swerve it for a while. But I thought it went fantastic. And I hope it's the start of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, I don't think people appreciate just the amount of time and things that we talked about this offline. You know, I mean, between us, we were staying up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Going over each one, all the models, everything that we could see, all the arguments that the ballers may have, and we needed to nail everything 100% before we released everything that we did last night. And there must be 150 hours at least of working it between, each person, and I'd probably say more for Chris actually because he's been like a trooper. He's been on it 12 hours a day, hasn't he?
Yeah. And I have to say as well that me and Ranty, between the two of us, have rage quitted on each other 4 times.
Me 3 times, you once.
And that's not because we fell out. It was because we can't always agree on every aspect of it. And if there's a critical aspect and Ranty has one view and I have a different view, at the end of the day, we have a different way of seeing what we see to be the truth. And my way is, does it match the evidence? Ranty's way is, well, I don't. Ranty can say for himself what he feels to be the case, but my way is, does it match the evidence? And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But Ranty's like, well, it does match it, and you just can't see it. And I'm like, no. And in the end, it goes, right, red button, click, and off we go. But it wasn't easy, and we went through this because it seemed to be standing in its own merits, and it has done. And I believe it will continue to do so. And I believe it is the best flat Earth evidence that we've had so far. Certainly one of the best ones I've ever seen. And it all started from Ranty spotting it about 7 or 8 weeks after I had it, and didn't do anything with it. So
yeah, it was. I think the waters have been muddied so much with the trolling that we've had over this, the composite and the video, because there's been every ball Earth troll that you can think of that's probably done a hangout about it. They've all been in the chat. They've all been blatantly lying as to which particular town is in a certain area, and it's been really difficult to try and win this argument. There can be no doubt now exactly what we saw, but it's been a long journey for both of us and for the people that have been listening. So we do apologize that you had to listen to all that, but at least you got to see the stuff that we have to go through to release this stuff to you guys. It's not nice when you're being called liars and frauds, and you're doing it for this and you're doing it for that reason. Ultimately we're doing it for the flat Earth, and that's it.
And we're applying your model, and that's it.
Yeah,
there's none of this messing around with maths. We're not. It is if your model doesn't do what it does or what it's supposed to do, then that's a problem, and it's that simple. Anyway, let's have a topic change before we get to 10 past. I want to share Miles Davis's most recent video. He went up to St. Bees to try and debunk me, which is brilliant. I want that to happen because I want to see what the critique is. And I'm not going to play too much of his video because I don't want to run the risk of any copyright strikes for Nath. But it's on his channel, and it was published on the 10th. It's called Flat Earth, Earth-Shaped Tourists UK, St. Bees, Episode 1, implying that there's going to be more episodes. But Miles is going to seriously have to up his game if he's going to get any credibility in this, because mistakes have been made here, Miles. And I'm going to cite back to you the mistakes that you cite to me so flippantly and so nastily and vitriolically. Miles criticizes me and Ranty for failures that he commits himself in this video. He criticizes us for not taking GPS and for not proving the date and the time that you went on and not producing your EXIF data.
Hang on, I don't do that. You do that. My work's brilliant.
These are his criticisms of me and or of you. These are the words that he uses. You didn't prove your elevation. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And he does everything that he criticizes me and or Ranty. He's done it himself in this video, right? There's no evidence of where he is. He doesn't do any panorama. He doesn't literally supposed to do a bit of a 180. And some people say 360, but he doesn't do it. He points his camera and he says, right, this is what we can see. Now, I know because I've been there, that's right. But you that have never seen it before, have no idea. But in any event, he's failed to do the basics that he criticizes me so vehemently against. There's no GPS in here. There's no proof of his elevation. There's no proof of where he's filming from. There's no proof of anything, Miles. And this is a problem this is why this guy is a ridiculous Ball Earth protagonist, because he's naff. Now, in this particular video, what he's trying to show are these some wind turbines. Now, the problem with the wind turbines argument is that he completely and utterly fails to notice that there's a massive effect of refraction going on. And I say refraction in the flat Earth context. I'm saying it in the context that it's an optical distortion of what you're looking at. And it's applying the principles that you find on the Mega Flump website, Standard Atmospheric Conditions. It's applying the principles that are here. He ignores all this, and he applies literally the curve calcs to it, right? But doesn't acknowledge that there is huge amounts of distortion, and he concentrates on the blockage on the horizon, and he claims that it's perfectly consistent with the curved Earth, okay? However, at 19 minutes in the video, he starts panning across to a patch of land. And at 19 minutes in the video, the patch of land that he's panning across to, I'll show it on Google Earth just so that you're all aware, it's from the same place in St. Bees, and he claims that he's on the car park where I was stood. right? And I know that he is because, or I believe that he is because I recognize the features. So he claims that he's on the car park in the middle point, and he's very conveniently just happened to arrive at full tide, high tide, which is the maximum obstruction that you would hope to get on a curved earth. Okay. But I find that coincidence. I mean, yeah, you're obviously going to go at high tide if you're a ball earther, right? I didn't go at low tide. I went as the tide was on its way down and the tide was on its way back in. So it was somewhere in the middle, but he's gone at absolute high tide. And what he's showing you on screen now, I'll show you the screen in a sec, but he's showing you this cove here. And you can identify it because when you zoom in, there are some, what they called, what are they called? These pylon things, power lines, pylon things. And what he's looking, generally, he's looking at the buildings that are going around this, like this cove. And it's really, really, really interesting that he didn't think, oh, might these be behind the curve of the earth? And I would argue that it's an omission on his part, and he's just flippantly gone past it because he can see it, and he's never even considered it. But nonetheless, when the video gets played, I'll only play a little bit of it, but he's identifying the buildings that are peeping around here. And these buildings are around 15 miles away. Okay. Now, these buildings really should be behind the curve of the earth, and I'll show you the maths in a sec. But Miles doesn't even think about mentioning that the curvature might be involved at such a short distance. But you can see that these buildings are literally, you can see that they are above the waterline because you can see the darkness of the land around it. Now, he flippantly goes past this because he can just see it. Didn't seem to think that it was important to consider the possibility that they might be behind the curve of the earth. Okay, granted, he was literally looking at the turbines and he was focusing on the turbines. So you could say that he wasn't really not paying attention to this, but nonetheless, he's panned across here enough to be able to point them out and point out, you can see these houses here and you can see, and it's a massive, massive omission to fail to challenge whether or not they should be behind the curve or not. If you're a baller and you can clearly see he's looking some distance, you can clearly see that it's the case that you would at least consider this when he hasn't done it. So when we go back to the shut my door, hang on. So when we go back to the Google Maps, which is here, these are all the houses that he's identifying along this coastal line. And to be honest, they're about 15 miles away, and he locates them based on the power lines that are in the background, which you can double check yourself. But the distances, bring this up here, 14.52 miles. Okay, so we'll just round it up for easy maths at 15 miles. But what's really interesting is he gives his observer height in the most bizarre way I've ever seen. Now, it's important, the observer height, if we live on a ball, but it's not that important if it's flat. But on a ball, the distance in miles was, what was the distance? 15, wasn't it? Yeah, so 15 miles. But he gives his viewer height, and to remind me, was it was 40 feet, I believe. 12 meters, that's right. So he gives his observer height at 12 meters. But he's at high tide, and he stood on pretty much the lowest part he could get to. Now, the beach, the tide at St. Bees is pretty big. It is a high tide, and if it's a bit choppy, it'll literally come up to where these lines all stop. It'll come up to the promenade. So he's at this triangle because that's essentially where I was. But he could have gone down a bit lower. Maybe it was because it was quite high. I don't know. He didn't show how high the tide was, as far as I can remember in the video. I didn't watch every single second of it. I just looked for the key points.
Well, he claimed that it was just after 3:30, and that was just at high tide. So you're looking at 7 meters 60.
Yeah, but he didn't show how much of it was. He didn't show he didn't show how high the high tide was. Is that right?
Yeah, he didn't actually show anything of his location other than a zoomed in video looking at the wind farms, and then he just panned across to the houses on the left, and that's all he saw of the video. That's literally it. No GPS, nothing.
Yeah, no GPS, no elevation proof. But he claims he's at 40 feet, 12 meters.
Which is ridiculous.
12 meters. Now, I don't know where he's getting this 12 meters from, because I'm assuming he's working on the distance from the mean sea height. But he's incorrectly applying the height data, because the reality is this. The height of the land is based on average sea level. It's mean sea level, right? So the height here, whatever this value is practically irrelevant because they say it's wrong anyway, but nonetheless, it is their model. But from average sea height, mean sea height, the land is calculated from there. So the tide is irrelevant. However, if we do live on a ball, you do have to make a small adjustment for the tide coming in once it goes beyond mean sea level. But there's no way the adjustment would justify you being at 40 feet. Anyway, let's go back to the maths, because this is where essentially the problem lies.
Well, hang on. Before we go any further, we were told that he was going to do this experiment and he would be taking a GPS, and he'd also taken an app that would give him his correct elevation above sea level. And he would be publishing this because he was going specifically to see what your altitude was. Now, he doesn't present any of this evidence in his video. And that's telling. That's him being dishonest, because if he did go with that app and he did go with GPS coordinates, he should have published them, not just made wild accusations saying he was 40 feet above sea level when he was there at high tide. And you can clearly see on all the images that are available, when high tide is so close to that car park, it could have been no more than 16 or 17 feet above the water at that time.
Now, this is the magnitude of the gentleman that we're talking about here. He's criticised Ranty for being a liar, for this, that, and the other. But his own omissions here are that stark that it becomes repugnant to believe that this guy is anything other than dishonest. It really is that bad, because he's doing the exact thing he criticises us of. And to be honest, why did you not put that app on your phone? Why did you not prove the elevation according to the app? Because that would have put this thing to bed, wouldn't it? Whatever the elevation is, Miles, it would have proved it. Beyond, and I don't know whether it would have been accepted as proof in any event. But surely, if you'd have put your app on and it confirmed or it supported the Google Earth elevation, that would then create a bit of a problem, wouldn't it? So it can only be the case that either one of two things has happened. You've either put your app on, realized it conforms with the Google Earth, and therefore you're not going to release it, and you've had to fudge it and make it look like you just forgot. Or you did actually just forget and you were negligent. You were negligent at the thing that you were supposed to be doing to prove how great and credible you are compared to me and Ranty, and you've done no better. And I wasn't even going there to do an observation. I was going to see if I could see Blackpool Tower, but I didn't. When I realised I just couldn't see it because it was a bit murky in that particular line of sight, I realised that I weren't going to see anything that I was looking for, so I just did the pan across the horizon in any event. But in essence, I didn't go there specifically looking to do an Isle of Man thing, but you were going there to do specifically an observation. So where's your compass bearing, Miles? Where's your GPS?
Well, no. He's changed it now. His observation, his video has been released to show the wind farms and all this other stuff. That wasn't the reason that he was going. Him and LK were going specifically, as we were told, not just by one person, but 3 or 4 of the ballers all said that he was going purposely to measure the height where you were. Not to do observations, to go and do height elevations. That was what we were told. Yeah. And none of this has been produced.
So, Randy, keep your eye on the time. So what I want to do now is I want to move towards what he shows in this frame. And you can see the buildings, right? And they're just call it 15 miles away because they're up the coast. It varies along the coast, but you can see the buildings. At 15 miles away, that gives us some maths that we can apply. If we do live on a ball. Now, I'll be honest, Chris showed last night that we shouldn't be using this refracted hidden value. We should be using drop, the geometric drop. That's the value that we should be looking at, okay? Because that is when you pan yourself backwards over the shape of the Earth. In other words, you get your distance. That's how much the object that you're looking at should drop below the horizon relative to where you are. Now, obviously, that's assuming that you can see through the water. So there is the bulge to consider as well, which is a fraction of the height. But the drop that you should see is, geometrically speaking, is that. Now, from my position, and that is in contrast to the hidden value. The hidden value, I'm going to let Nathan explain this, because I can't do it as well as Nathan can do it. His explanation is better than mine.
Well, mine's just the metabunk calculation below, so there's a diagram. It just explains it really, there you go, perfectly adequately.
Right, so we see the bulge. But what we don't see, my problem with this is it gives the horizon distance of a value of A. And when you look in here, there is nothing that denotes where the A is. So it gives A for horizon, B for bulge. Doesn't say, it should say bulge and then in brackets B, so that you know that you're looking at that value. Obscured as X should be identified in here to tell you what you're looking at. Distance being D, Nothing in there to say the distance. I know it says distance, but in brackets it should say D. The radius again should be in. We should have all this clear. And this is ridiculous.
Let me have a quick bash. So at the point that you have, is it A, which is the observer position, right? According
it says
to
A, the horizon distance. That would be this value, wouldn't it?
So according to the way the heliocentric model works, if you are at point A, your feet are anchored with your vertical versus the Earth. So you are at top dead center, you are at the top of the Earth, and you are looking out in the direction that it shows. So if you are looking at something on the horizon, you are effectively looking down. So obviously this diagram's not going to make that really clear, but if you look at point A, it's not looking out at the horizon, it's looking down at the horizon. And what you have effectively done is reversed your position, so you are tilting back based on the fact that you are 90 degrees to the Earth. Everybody who is on the Earth is at the top. Therefore, to target something, you must angle down your camera to look towards first the bulge, which is the physical Earth curve wall that blocks your view. But your target, depending on distance, is going further and further around the sphere. So its observation point is pulled downwards as you are going backwards as you look at something that is across this Earth bulge. Therefore, the end figure that you end up in terms of where it is physically, geographically located on a sphere, it's the drop figure. That's how much it has dropped from your viewing position. So you can't obviously look through the curve of the Earth. That's impossible. You have to look above it. So therefore, if you're looking directly at the horizon at the minimal amount of point that you could bring that item back, if it's there, it has been brought back from the drop figure. There you go. So if it's being claimed to be a mirage, it's the drop that you look at, because it's being brought back up into that direct line of sight. So you're not really seeing the thing, you're seeing a mirage, but it's being miraged up from the drop value.
Yeah. But this is why it's a bit rubbish, this thing, because if the horizon value represents this horizon distance, which it does, that A should appear in here, so that you know that A in the diagram relates to A there, but it doesn't, because this becomes a problem, not so much with the bulge, because you can see the bulge is B. But when you see drop, you'll notice in the diagram, it doesn't say the word drop, it says obscured. So it should be consistent. It should be represented with the value of X. Or is it hidden?
Got a new guest. We've got Spurs. I don't know, sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. We've got Spurs. How you doing, Spurs? Can you open your mic and say a quick hello?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Very pleased to have you here.
Hi, Kimo. You right?
Good morning, Spurs.
Yeah, good presentation there. I'll leave you to it. Listening. Yeah.
So the hidden value, whatever this number refers to, doesn't appear in here at all. And it should be denoted with a letter so that we know that the letter that's being the letter part of the diagram is what we're looking at. Now, I was always told, and it was from a particular Kiwi guy, a New Zealand guy, that the value that we always use is the hidden value. And I never challenged it because it was just what I thought everybody did. So I was always of the opinion that we just did the hidden value because that's what everybody did. And I considered it was just the accepted practice, and it had been challenged at some point, proven to be the case, and that was it. But there is nowhere on the diagram that tells you what the hidden value relates to. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this makes no sense because it doesn't explain it. What's the horizon dip? Well, somebody could explain it to you, but it doesn't explain it to you on here. And it's rubbish. But in any event, Chris showed last night that the drop is the value that we should be looking at, not the hidden. So all these observations that have been done over the years with this hidden value, it's complete nonsense because it makes no sense based on this diagram, based on the explanation. The drop value is this obscured value, X. That's what we should be using. So unless I've got this wrong, and Chris has got this wrong, but he demonstrated it last night on the AutoCAD, and it showed the geometric curve of the Earth, it is exact. What we see is the drop value that we should be looking at. But then you have to remember that there's a bulge in front of us, which is always smaller because the bulge is nearer to us. But essentially, that is the drop behind the curve. That's the value that we should be looking at.
The bulge is the value if you're going to claim that you are looking through the wall of water, which obviously is a physical impossibility if you're on that. If you still think you're on a sphere and this is your Earth that you're looking at now in this diagram, then if you want to count the bulge figure, it means you're physically looking through water. Yeah, does that make sense? Great. Anyway, sorry, just want to introduce a couple of guests. Mr. Flat Curve, how you doing? Good to have you here.
Good, thanks. Great presentation last night.
Thanks, pal.
Cheers.
We've also got Adam. How you doing, Adam? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Good to have you here, Adam. Thanks for being here.
Afternoon. First of all, guys, legendary. I've got to say, mate, in terms of the detail, the effort, and the shit you guys have put up with, it's been the best flat Earth proof I've seen in terms of the sheer effort and quality of analysis, gents. So congratulations. And
thanks.
The success is apparent by the silence from the ballers, gents.
Oh, no, it's a protest.
They are still claiming
sorry,
that's the island.
Yeah. Good to see that such morally strong people are maintaining their protest. What are they protesting?
Oh, God knows. What is the protest, Nate? Do you know?
They don't like the fact that the Earth is flat.
What is the official one, though? Is it specific or is it generally?
Officially, I think I kicked one of the participants who continually made a lot of noise, and that's called for every baller to boycott the show. I think that's what their excuse was.
Oh, right. So is it to do with... Is it bobbity 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 bob? Is that the one?
I don't know. I've no idea. They haven't given me any specific names of who, but apparently I ejected someone, and that's outrageous that I should have the right to eject people from my own show.
Not to do with the fact that we're getting to the crescendo of one of the biggest flat Earth proofs ever. And it's like, oh, right, so you're using that as the example, are you? That is the excuse, are you? Right, okay. But anyway, back to this for a sec, because I can wrap my point up in like pretty quickly. But what the point is, on this Metabunk website, and I've lost my screen now, if we did actually live on a ball, and there was a bulge in the way, and it would obscure these houses, the drop behind the horizon, these houses are down here somewhere, but it doesn't make it clear. We've all been told to use that refractive hidden value, and it's complete nonsense because it's
a lie, Anthony. It's a mathematical. This was something that I've sent Ranty my curvature derivation, so people have got an easy formula to calculate this exact thing. And from doing that, it became apparent to me, and this is actually what we was going to discuss with Jaren on Friday. We were discussing it last night to kind of highlight what you guys are just mentioning there, which is that it's a mathematical lie. If you pull back up that picture, what you actually start to see is how they've used the ball and horizon formation to try and put horizon formation to create this bulge. But for them to draw this mathematically correct, they have to deny the existence of gravity. As the 3D CAD stuff starts to show you, you're on the top of the ball all the time. Now, that mathematics actually asks you to ignore gravity to create a bulge, which is, just so you get a picture that most people from their GCSE maths are familiar with, which is a circle with a segment, an arc cut through for you to calculate. But if you stood on the top of a ball, as you guys are saying, mathematically there never will be a bulge form because everything is below your feet. When you start to calculate
that,
yeah.
So would you agree then, at its most basic of levels, when I say that this horizon value that's given here, for example, is relating to this part, this horizon distance, but it gives it the value A, it should at least identify it as A, so we know that that bit relates to that. Because in not doing that, it allows this murky bit here, this hidden bit. Do you actually know what this hidden bit means?
It's a cheat. Okay, so it's a lie to try and take away the significance of what you guys have demonstrated. It's actually worse, and I'll get back to that. But if you go to your diagram, go to the middle is where you have to stand. Nobody stands and looks at the ground. And if you actually draw the lines of gravity up at the blue point where you're looking to the distance, the person's either leaning backwards or they're looking at leaning forwards, or they're looking down, because the mathematical diagram that's drawn there does not represent the reality of the observations you would make if you were stood on a ball. It represents the reality of looking at a hill on a flat plane, is what that maths represents.
I agree. But again, though, I make the point at its most basic level, the failure to identify the values in the thing above is a problem, because it allows this sneaky little sucker to get in here. And on the explanation, on the diagram here, even if you allow the labeling to match, there is no value for the hidden. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't explain it. And it's simply... Now, the reason why I got it was because of the Kiwi bloke that we all kind of know, And I just never challenged it because I just assumed it was an accepted fact. But now Chris has showed it last night and showed that it's completely not what they say. It becomes a farce when he shows what it actually is. And he showed it in that hangout last night, and it was just, it was brilliant when he showed it. And I was like, no way, for all these observations that we've been doing, and we've been applying this nonsense figure down here to do with refracted hidden. It's nonsense.
It's actually worse than that, Anthony. If you just looking at the diagram, if you just imagine you're stood in the middle and actually looking out, what you've seen with metabunks and all these things are excuses to try and bring the, to excuse the effect of the curve. Actually, if you're stood in the middle and looking at that obscured red line, if you're on a flat plane, the further away it is, it's still straight relative to the observer's relative gravity. When you go further away, what you end up doing is taking a 100-foot building and bending it away from you. So actually, what you should put in there is an increase in the drop, because the angle of turn away from the observer decreases the height even further because it's no longer going straight up.
That's exactly what Chris showed. Chris showed at 30 miles, any observation at 30 miles, you are tipping backwards over the curve of the Earth relative to the subject that you're looking at.
It's 0.00899332161 degrees per kilometre that you tilt, which is insignificant to be able to measure, but it would have a significant effect. Once you start to have 100 miles, it'll have a significant effect on the height of what you're observing, because it would appear even lower. Because
agreed.
Yeah.
So this even this hidden value here without refraction, this hidden value is nonsense. It's just simply nonsense.
Yeah. So the purpose of what they're doing in the horizon, the bulge, and the drop is to try and create that hill. But the reason they have to create the hill is because they're using the horizon, because we all know that the higher you go up, the further you can see. So what they're trying to do there is to take that statement of fact and build it into their circle. But you can see the higher they go up, the further they have to go backwards, anti-clockwise, to create the diagram, which is the disproof that the diagram represents reality.
I agree.
I'm just going to do a quick link, guys, so sorry, I'm going to have to turn you down in order to do it, but bear with me 1 second while my kid, of course, climbs on me the second I want to do this. So I hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. Distinct lack of globers on the panel at the moment, but the link is open. If you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. Simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click that link to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number 1, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. If you've not done so already, please share the show, as sharing obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. My link over, guys. Thanks for your patience.
So just back to this point here, this hidden value. Basically, flat earthers from now on don't use this value because there's no science behind it. It's nonsense. These are the two values that we're going to be using. The bulge is the obstruction. That is the obstruction that they're talking about. And the drop is how far behind the curve it should be on a geometric curve. Now, we're going to dismiss the standard refraction nonsense. A, because it's based on an apparent radius. But B, refraction is negligible by definition. So we can do it. It's not worth calculating for. So we're not going to calculate for it. We are literally not moving the goalposts. We're just making the goalposts real. They're not mirage anymore. They're not science fiction. It's not mathematics. It becomes real at this point because this is the geometric shape of the Earth, and the refraction is negligible. It isn't worth calculating for. I've said it over and over and over again. It is not worth calculating for. That is the definition that the MIT paperwork tells us about the trajectory of light applying Fermat's principle. That's it. It's negligible. It's not worth calculating for. We don't need to do it. If we live on a ball, geometric shape is important. These are the values that we have. And in these values, hidden is nonsense. So that can be dismissed. Horizon dip, we don't need to know it. The only ones that we need are the bulge, which is the obstruction, and the drop, which is how far behind the curve it falls.
Just out of interest,
you don't need the bulge. It doesn't exist. And the most important factor, other than the distance that you're observing, is the observer height. If you guys want to have a look at the slideshow I sent you in terms of just basic curvature calculation, if you're standing on top of the ball, your observer height is an addition on top of the drop. Yeah, because if you're standing on top of the ball and looking 90 degrees, the higher you are, that's just extra height that whatever you're looking at will be below your feet. It's just, so if you're 100 feet up, add 100 foot to the basic curvature calculations in terms of the drop, because that's actually how you calculate it from the mathematics of reality. Not,
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with you. It's nonsense to be talking about this refracted hidden value. And for such a long time, Ranty and I have been doing observations and applying this absolute nonsense. And it was literally the glasses were put on my eyes last night, and I could see when I watched Chris doing the documentation, the documentary part of the CAD part of the demonstration from last night. It became obvious that this was a nonsense fiction. It's science fiction rubbish. And what it's actually reflecting, this value, is the effect. It's the effect of the atmospheric block, the dirty layer of air that we see. That seems to be what we're looking at. But they're calling it the curvature of the Earth, and it's not. It's simply optical. And they seem to have found a formula that seems to make it work. But they're calling it the curve of the Earth, and it's simply not. Anyway, back to Miles for a sec. If we did live on a ball Earth, on maths, on his calculations, we're not even going to look at the refraction nonsense. That can go. But if it was the case that there was a bulge in front of us here, these houses are gone, because by his own calculations, they're 15 miles away and he's at 40 feet. The refractive hidden value, which is the value he's going to apply, which is literally nonsense. It's still got 25 feet of curve of hidden. But if you look at these houses, they're on the coast. These houses are partly obscured by the curve. But they'll argue this nonsense about bending the light and all this rubbish. But we're actually going to apply the geometric curvature, the actual curvature calcs, because these are the two values that we need to look at. So there is no bulge. That's the first thing. The drop.
Well, there is no bulge, Anthony. And actually, if you take the maths that they're trying to explain as reality here, what actually happens on their calculation there is light doesn't just bend up; it bends down as well. Look.
Yep. But
it goes up to the peak of the bulge, it's bending up, and then it bends back down to the observer on reality in Metabunk's maths.
But don't you find it interesting that you've just said that light bends up as well as down, yet Rumpus spent 25 minutes without interruption describing a fantasy about refraction, and he never once said the word up. 25 minutes telling you that light bends down, and it doesn't. It bends up, down, left, and right, according to Fermat's principle. Never once said the word up. 25 minutes. It is literally laughable. Anybody that comes on now that argues standard refraction and uses the refractive hidden value, we laugh at them because it's absolute nonsense. We apply the geometric curvature and that's it. And basically, it's that drop. That's the value that you're looking for. It should be 150 feet below the horizon. And in this case, you're seeing all the houses. So if there was a curve of the Earth, these things would be gone because they would be sitting down here somewhere. But there isn't a curve. It's flat as a pancake. So literally, my position now is to literally laugh at these idiots that that say things like, "Oh, it completely conforms to the shape of the spheroid Earth." No, the Earth's flat, you idiot. It's literally ridiculous.
I thought the other good significant thing that came out of the CAD design was to show what happens to the horizon when there isn't anything to obscure it and just the ball just falls away. And that's to actually know that would have happened, but to actually have somebody who's modeled it so that the ballers can't argue with what I've known, you know what I mean? That's exactly what happened. To see how the horizon rises up for the Isle of Man, yet if you're looking out across flat ocean, it falls and falls away. I thought was fantastic because it destroys the argument of, oh, it's such a big ball, it's virtually flat. It demonstrates that, yeah, it is virtually flat, but actually that tiny little drop that you're thinking is insignificant, because it's a big ball Earth, that tiny little drop is 2 miles. Just doesn't look very much.
I just want to show, I've just noticed Flamingo Boots comment in chat, and Riley's proved that they are on the coast. I'll just show you now. I'll show you where these houses sit. And we're seeing the beach, but they should be geometrically gone. So, come on.
Well, this was the good thing, Anthony, that you guys, I took a bit I've been mentioning you guys on the Friday show, and it's boring. But for geeks like me, and certainly I've got a bit of legal interest as well. Like, you could listen to what you were doing to them, Andy, in terms of tying them up with specifics that weren't even, because I've not got 2 weeks and I'm thinking, I don't care whether it's X, Y, or Z. You do know it shouldn't be there, whether it's that house, or that house. Yeah. But they seem to have forgotten that. And like I say, I thought the way you went through it analytically, and particularly the way Nathan kept pulling it back, you guys didn't allow their distraction techniques. You answered each point as if it was like a court of law. And I think what you've built over the past month is the best analysed, solid case that the ballers, they can't come back. I mean, you've got the other bonuses of them having to admit now that there is no working model of the ball.
Yep.
The little nice bits like that. But to me, it's a proper peer review. You used the phrase last night, and I think that is exactly what you've done. But the most vicious, old school, Victorian peer review nowadays is having somebody you like say, yeah, I agree with that.
Agreed.
Proper scientific peer review is what I've witnessed over the past 3 or 4 weeks. People with a vested interest in you being wrong, savaging it, and you defending it to the point where they can no longer have any objection. And that's what you've achieved, is a real old school scientific peer review, guys. And
yeah,
I'll say it again.
Why do you think they're boycotting now?
They will still have an objection.
It's grammatically correct. These people are our peers. They have reviewed it.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you say there that we didn't allow them to distract off topic, what happens there is tactically they accuse me of being semantical with a negative connotation to it. But when they do the same thing to correctly interpret the meaning of words, they call that honest. But when I do it as a flat earther, or maybe because it's me personally, that's seen as being semantical. Now, it's a promotion over being dishonest. I'll grant them that much, but nonetheless, it's got a negative connotation to it. Yet when they do it, it becomes totally acceptable, like the likes of Jeremy did and Rumpus. It's literally farcical. So now it's literally, and right, my position on this now is I'm literally going to laugh at these Burks, because if they really think that we live on a ball when they've seen 140 miles, and you're seeing Ireland in the background, and you failed to notice that these buildings are behind the geometric curve of the Earth, that is a problem. So when you spend an hour, I don't know how you got an hour out of this, Miles. I honestly do not. But when you spent an hour talking about these turbines,
how you doing, Arif? Can you hear us? Oh, sorry. No, Arif's presumably a sniper.
So I don't know how he did it. He spent an hour. Talking about these turbines. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, these turbines, yeah, they do give the appearance that they might be behind the curve of the Earth. But later on in the video, he shows that all the blades are all bended, and there's turbines that are behind turbines. And look at the size of. Let me look at this turbine here, right? He's look at the size of the hub that holds the fins. Look at the size of that one, and he doesn't notice that, and he doesn't mention it, and he claims it's consistent with the curve of the Earth, therefore completely dismissing the obvious atmospheric optical destruction of what we're looking at. It's ridiculous.
Mirror that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's optical.
It's twice as thick.
Yeah, I mean, literally, he claims that this is consistent with living on a spheroid Earth, yet fails to address the problem, the massive. This is supposed to be the furthest one away, yet it looks twice, 3 times bigger than the nearest one, and that's somehow consistent.
That's why. Again, blowing smoke up your arse again, but that's the point of what you've done, guys, over this. Every single minutiae you've ironed out and presented the evidence for people. You don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with them, but the evidence was there that you could only really agree with you because you've gone through it in such detail that everything is identifiable. So even 40 little bits of detail aren't up for conjecture. And that again was what I thought was brilliant in the way you preserved your judgment until you got to the end, and certainly the detail that Randy displayed in those other photos I thought was outstanding in terms of
hello, Adam. You hear me, mate? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we hear you, Spurs.
Yeah, you're gonna cause all hell's gonna break loose now. I've just heard you say the ballers don't have a model.
Well, you guys admitted you didn't you?
Well, I just wanted you to expand on that, because they're going to absolutely go haywire when they're going to say, well, what is your model? But you're not saying
I don't need a model. I didn't say I had a model. I said they came on and admitted that they their best model, which I assume, unless they've got a better best model, which was Google Earth, wasn't accurate. And I think if you look at the comparisons from last night's vid, you can see the discrepancies on the skyline from Google Earth to the real pictures. So again,
no, I'm on your side. I'm just saying that they've heard the words, well, the borders have no model, and I can just hear them all now, you know, screaming, where's your model? Where's your model? But we're not saying we have a model.
I can make a statement that the ball model doesn't hold true. I don't need a model to make that statement.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you're still seeing my screen. I'm assuming that I'm still screen sharing, but from now on, right, this is what we're doing. This nonsense about refraction down here is literally getting binned off. Okay, that value doesn't exist anymore as far as anybody on the flat Earth is concerned. Forget it. It goes. This hidden.
Ranty, can you put up my formula, Anthony, and then you've got it there for you? It's what I gave Ranty the other day. You've got a way of calculating your drop dead easy. It's 6371 minus 6371 times the cosine of the distance times 0.008. 99326161.
I will do, but at the moment, I'll be honest, I'm enjoying destroying this nonsense that I'm looking at. So let me finish destroying this, and then I'll bring yours on screen. But this bit now, it no longer exists as far as anybody on the flat Earth concerned. It's because it's nonsense. All right, so I've removed the hidden value. Again, that's nonsense. The horizon dip, that may have some value. I mean, it's arbitrary and it's moot. It doesn't really make any difference. We can leave it in. The horizon value, sure, that's probably consistent. Bulge, there is no bulge. That one can go as well. It's flat as a pancake. So we're not having bulge anymore. So basically, we're left with this. This is all we're left with. We're left with this drop if they're on a ball, and we're left with the horizon. So refraction is literally binned. We don't have anything called refraction on this curve calculator anymore. So this is nonsense. It's literally nonsense. And anybody that cites it to you, laugh at them, because they are literally, they're telling you a fraud. They're lying to you. They might not realize they're lying to you, but it's a science fiction that doesn't exist. The only value that we're interested in is the drop, and it ignores refraction because it's negligible and it isn't worth calculating for. So from this day forward, that's what we're using. And anybody that cites anything more, we laugh at them. We literally laugh at their ignorance because they're like the emperor wearing their new clothes. And that's how we're going to deal with it. Now, I'm not going to talk about Miles anymore because the rest of his video can now be dismissed as nonsense, because that's how it is. So, boosh, he's gone. We can get rid of this whole website as well because that's gone. So now if you want to direct me to your calculator, I think we should reinstate the calculation and use yours instead, because that one clearly is nonsense. So how do I find your calculator?
If you can bring it up on screen yourself, Adam, we'll just display it now and you can talk us through it. I know you've just done the calculation in verbal terms, which is excellent, but yeah, if you can display it, that'd be really, really good.
Adam, this is your moment.
He's gone to get a brew.
Adam, you let us that. Well, you'll have to come back and you'll have to share
or he's on mute looking for it frantically. So let's not pressure him.
No, we'll not pressure him. We'll give him a chance. But the point I wanted to make was that Miles has he's done the exact criticism of me. He's done it himself. He's failed miserably to identify that there's curvature involved in the peninsular houses or the coastal houses that he nonchalantly glades past. And I just find it literally ridiculous that he would then claim at the end of the video, these are completely consistent with a spheroidal Earth. It's like, Miles, you are looking at the effects of atmospheric and optical refraction in terms of the stretching and the shrinking, the Skunk Bay footage that I've gone on about for weeks and weeks and weeks. You're looking at refraction, but it's the flat Earth version of. You're not looking at the spheroidal Earth refraction. It's nonsense. Anybody that cites it from now on, we're going to laugh at you because it is literally nonsense.
You realise the time that he went to do it was less than 30 minutes before sunset.
So the sun's going to,
as well as the fact that it was at the highest tide for the entire week.
Can I just as well, now that we're not really focusing on Isle of Man anymore, I want to just put it out there as an advert to everybody else that's got observations that they consider, that they've done themselves, that they consider to be strong. We've all done them. Most of us have got P900s. Why don't we use this platform to present evidence and let the ballers attack it? Because if it's good evidence and it stands the test of time, then it'll be defended and it'll be resolute. It'll stand in its own footprint, like the work that we've shown that does. Well, obviously, you've got to be prepared to put up with the nonsense that we put up with, but we'll fight it for you. We'll fight it with you, and we'll attack them back at their nonsense maths that makes no sense whatsoever on a Mickey Mouse drawing that a 5-year-old could have done in year 7 or whatever it is these days. It's nonsense. So if you've got flat Earth evidence for the P900 and you think that it supports the shape of the Earth, bring it on. Let's look at it, and we'll look at both sides of it, and we'll present it on both sides, and we'll see which one matches the evidence. And it'll always come down to refraction, and it'll always come down to non-standard refraction. This nonsense that people like Paul Voigt claim, it is not literally nonsense. But bring it on and let's talk about it.
The thing that I find the most outrageous is that Miles and Al-K have been to the observer point, having been on the panel and argued with us about your observer height. Literally, they have been on the panel and discussed this issue. They've then gone and not taken GPS locations from their phone. Something that absolutely everybody on the opposing side said you should have done when you were taking these effectively tourist shots. He's there with a scientific intention, and he's not given us GPS coordinates. What? He knew exactly why he was going.
Yeah, it speaks volumes, to be fair. They know that Anthony was more or less probably correct in his calculations all along, and they just don't want to present evidence that might agree with that. Hello?
So where are the Globers then? You know, there's no snipers, it seems. So, Globers, the doors are open, there's no snipers. Where are you? The boycott's not been mentioned in the chat, as far as I can tell. We had Rumpus yesterday in the presentation saying, why isn't the link published? So clearly he's not interested in the boycott anymore. Come on, Rumpus, you're welcome to this one, mate. Links in the info box.
They're probably just listening in, licking the wounds, perhaps.
That diamond, the lighthouse, is now the benchmark for far distance viewing.
I couldn't believe it when we found it, though. It was just superb.
I mean, that, for all the people who said, why aren't you seeing to the shore / why aren't you seeing to the beach, that lighthouse is at, what is it, 25 feet, the elevation of the ground it sits on?
It's not very high. It's right on. It's on the lowlands, isn't it? On the very edge of the isle. So can't be that high.
Very, very, very low to the ground, and yeah.
But it's 51 miles away.
It's 51 miles, yeah, 51 miles. But you can get it gives you a really good idea of the inverse square law when you see Morgold Lighthouse in the I was going to say the near foreground. It's 31 miles away, but when you compare that to, admittedly, it's still a distinctive shape, the other lighthouse at the far left of picture, but that lighthouse is it's so less distinct than Morgold Lighthouse is in terms of what it looks like. I mean, it's still, even in saying that, I can picture the triangle base below it with the little diamond shining through the refraction. You know, just it's still clearly a lighthouse, but it's just so much less defined than Morgold because it's so much further away. The inverse square rule does still apply.
But the good thing is that Douglas Head is undeniable. I mean, those buildings that are sat on the actual head of Douglas Head, absolutely brilliant, and they're that big that it just appears now that anything that is probably around about 35-40 miles away, you're going to have to be looking for structures that are as big as like a hotel or a big lighthouse, something like that, because anything else just doesn't really show up. You know, it's too small to be picked out. You know, it'll be less than a pixel, and the camera just won't pick it up.
Somebody in the chat.
Randy, I've emailed that presentation to you guys again.
Okay.
And you're probably right. It might be better, Nathan, to pop back. It takes about 20 minutes to go through, but it's not just a formula. It's actually a calculated derivation, so that they're more than welcome to criticise it. It's the best I could put together mathematically to actually have something that does calculate circular drop, as opposed to it not being an approximation. And that's why it's a little bit long-winded.
Can you go through it? You know, we've got an hour left. You're welcome to go through it.
I'm literally Well, I'd happily do it, mate. I'm about to lock the shop up, go home.
Okay, no worries.
And maybe come out because I'm writing a bit of. It was not planned, as Anthony said. It was just excitement at what you guys have revealed. I wanted to jump on and just go, well done, guys, because it's awesome what you've done. But I would like to share this with you so you guys understand the derivation as well. And I say I'm happy to take criticism. But I do think actually what we've got there is the correct curvature calculator thing as well. All you need to do is add the observer height on and add that on top of what your drop is, and that will tell you how far it should be below your feet. But
well, certainly on a future debate, if you want to pop on and do that, it's always best to join at the beginning when it's a bit quieter. But I'd love you to go through that with us.
Yeah, I would as well.
I'll need a computer as well to share with you. You see, so
when you're in a good position to do so, or if not, I mean, if necessary, I'm more than happy to do other shows. You know, I'll do one debate a day from now on. But you know, Gary John wants to do a video with me about the UK conference, and you know, there's various other things that I'll do, the interviews included. But if you wanted to go through that on like a half-an-hour video, that would be my pleasure to sit and just listen to you go through it on a separate show. So I'm more than happy to do that with you. We'll just have to make arrangements because I know for a fact that if we do it in this format, you might get interrupted. So yeah, you know, it's one of those.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to take criticism for it. It's maths. It's talking about the shape of a ball and how you can use trig to calculate it. So it's either right or wrong. It doesn't prove or disprove the Earth, but we've checked every tons of them, and it works, and it's accurate. It's accurate to however many decimal places you want to take it. So, like I say, I think moving forward, now you've established that the Metabunk data is incorrect in its representation of reality. Hopefully this one does, and it provides people with an easy way of calculating without having to trust the website that you can't see what the calculation is.
It would be nice for you to get a calculator, a physical calculator that we can put together, and people can go to a website and put the values in. And we'll push it
on a spreadsheet for you. I've done it actually as a spreadsheet, so you can just input it in there and it'll work it out. But it is, as long as you've got this is the point, as long as you've got a scientific calculator that you press the cosine button, you can do it on the fly yourself. That's the only point of any real mathematical requirement is pressing the cosine button.
Adam, can I just ask you? You said that you were locking up the shop, yeah? You're finishing for the day, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you put your special poncho boots on? Because we all need to wear special poncho boots if we're walking around all this curvature that we're told that we live on. Because apparently there's that much curvature on our poncho on our Earth that we need special poncho boots. So I just wondered if you had your poncho boots on today.
Well, I've got magnetic ones, yeah, because it's
magic,
2 miles.
As long as you've not got flat sole shoes on, because flats don't work on a ball. Especially poncho ones, because the ball that we live on, according to the poncho ones, are tiny. So just making sure you had your special poncho boots on, that was all.
So we have approximately 1 hour left on this live stream. If you wanted to join the panel, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show. And most importantly, if you do join the panel, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. If you've not done so already, please share the show, as sharing increases the live audience, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. And if you've not done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
Whilst we're being nice and polite to each other, could I extend the invitation to you guys to tomorrow? We'd actually got quite a big, we're part of Iron Realm, which is the best flat Earth show nobody's ever heard of, which I always remember, Anthony, when I got on Jamie Brown a while ago, and then I dropped off. I always remember you going, I've got to be honest, I've never heard of it.
I've been on Iron Realm Media. I go in your chat and say hello.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So it was just tomorrow night. We've got Jaron back on to discuss. 2 weeks ago, I had him on to present the, and we've got him coming back on again tomorrow to feed it back to us what his thoughts were. But frankly, what you guys have produced is bigger and better than that. I just wonder, it might be if you've got a bit, to maybe pop in, and as one of the things we were going to discuss with you, and maybe you guys jump in as well, and kind of let's try and spread this across the Atlantic. I know we've managed to get Bob listening to you. We discussed on Globus this week, but I thought it might be nice if you guys
we have a
popped
new
in.
guest. You want to introduce, or because like
yeah, I'll just answer Adam first. Yes, I'd love to. Simple answer. How you doing, Nichios? Can you hear us? Nichio Snows?
Have they dropped?
Maybe. Yeah, they've dropped. Try and rejoin Nichios. I don't think there's any snipers about. Could be wrong. Don't think so though.
But Nichios could be the sniper though.
No, could be. Yeah, just get rid of Nichio Snows if you're in the back chat. Anyway.
Yeah, you have to emphasise, if they do want to come on the chat, they need to speak straight away.
Yeah, speak immediately, or I'll probably end up sniping you. But yeah, I'd love to, Adam. I mean, that sounds wonderful. And, you know, Jaren is an excellent conversationalist and a brilliant flat earth researcher. So, yeah, it's always great to hear that Jaren's out doing the rounds, and the fact that he's been on your show is amazing. I've not seen that. I will, because, yeah, I like to hear what he's got to say. But, yeah, brilliant.
Well, if you want a bit of an explanation, there was the Christmas show, 22nd, where he didn't turn up, just left us hanging. But in that one, I actually go through all the maths. And then 2 weeks ago is the one where he's on and testing it. And like I say, he's going to come back this week and give us a bit of an appraisal, I hope, and just have some other chat. Specified. But like I say, I think what you guys have done is way and above and the best topic of the day to discuss with them. So
it is. And to be honest, it needs to be pushed around so that everybody gets to see it. And even if they don't agree with it, we encourage and invite them to come and challenge it, because I mean, if I've done 20 shows, I've done 50. You know what I mean? I'll stand my ground and I'll say, look, where's
I was just about to say, you can take this to any lecture, any conference, any professor. They can't argue with it now. None of these ballers want to even attempt. And I saw this anyway. I said, this is why the boycott. This is how they must know more about, you know, the shape than they let on. It's no coincidence that they've all of them have decided to back out just before the big announcement. So yeah,
I love it. I think it's the best advert that could possibly have happened.
The trouble was they were having the feet nailed down to their ball model every single debate, and every single time that we destroyed that, they were being prized off the ball. So they were telling them now that the Google Earth doesn't actually match. So they've basically got rid of their own model. And every day that went by, it was about winning a particular argument. We would talk about it prior we went live, and we would say, right, okay, then how are we going to get them to admit this particular thing or this particular thing or this particular thing? And we had a format that we were using every day to win the arguments and basically get to this point. And they knew what was coming. I think they could see what had happened over the month, and they knew what was about to be revealed, and this is why they started the boycott.
Yeah, oh, Randy, of course. I mean, Sean Hufford, Tim Osmond, you know, these guys, they know what they're doing. And it's like pulling the troops out before the damage. And yeah, that's exactly what's happened. Not one of them want to show up, not one of them want to turn up. I don't blame them. This is not a time to be looking more ridiculous than the guys that they're calling ridiculous.
And the only thing that they will do is turn up and just literally try and ad hom attack. They will say, you're a liar, Riley, or you lied about your observer position. Well, I don't care where you put me on that cliff, that hill, that mountain. I don't care, because the highest that it can be is 52 feet on your model. And that's the model that we're proving is wrong.
We've got Nick, formerly Nick L, and we've got Al K in the chat. So clearly not abiding by their own boycott, but they're in the chat criticising. The link is open. Nobody's going to snipe you. Jump in and tell me where the Earth curve wall is. That's what I want to hear. Where it is.
Auntie, turn your vibrator down. He's got.
No, I'm having an extension done at the back, aren't I? So I'll turn my I'll mute my microphone now for a bit.
Oh, it's not a vibrator; it's a power drill.
It is a power drill. But yeah, I mean, Al K, yeah, come in. let's hear from Al K. You can tell us where the curve is, Al.
Well, I'd like to know whether he's been to the location after criticising you for not getting the exact measurements and having a literal tape measure with you on the day that you were doing these tourist observations. Now, these are not tourist observations that you've done, Al. You've gone there with the intention of debunking what we have presented. So, let's see the GPS coordinates for that hill. Save us the trouble. You've gone up there. You've spent the tank of petrol. Presumably you're not an idiot and you have listened to your own criticisms and taken something to get the GPS coordinates. I want to see them. I want to see proof that that's where you were.
I think that Miles and Al went down there and they saw Island. I think they have the Jeep. They have everything. They have all the things.
No, they couldn't have saw it. They couldn't have seen Island.
Well, this is why they're not coming on. They've seen something that they don't want.
No, it's the other way around.
Something has scared them.
No, it's the other way around. I seen a little snippet of what they could see of Isle of Man.
Yeah, they didn't show all of what they.
I know, but what I'm saying is, I can tell by what they showed that they didn't have the visibility that I had, and therefore, it's not that they saw Ireland; it's that they didn't see the Isle of Man on the right.
Al-K is denying. He says, "I have never spoke about Isle of Man." This is the guy who went and made the observation. The same observation is now claiming he's never spoken about it. I kid you not. He's accusing me of lying and saying he's never spoken about it. Well, unbelievable, Al-K. Unbelievable. This is the guy making the observation.
Yeah, I think by doing the observation, Al, that by definition is observing and commenting about it. Even if it's passively done, it's still observing about it, Al. You've gone there and done to try and debunk me. You've gone there and you haven't debunked me, have you, Al? And that in itself is talking about it in some way, because you'd have had a conversation with Miles in the car all the way up there and you'd have absolutely derailed me. But when you got there and you couldn't see that floating land to the right, that's a problem, Al. And I've asked you to produce what you did see, and you haven't done it.
Here's a sniper now. Be careful now.
Oh, he's got away with it. We're all going to get sniped. Damn it. So we may as well join back on Skype. I tell you what, we'll do the call now because we know
it's all right. It's all right. I got him.
Oh, well done. Push. So take your girly ankles and disappear, dude. We saw you coming. Well done. I didn't spot him. So Al, you may not have talked about it, but you've been in the background stirring the honeypot. And you know what they say about stirring the honeypot. You have to lick the spoon. And you're involved in it, Al. And you didn't debunk me, did you? Like Aries' failure. It's Al's failure. Anyway. So... right, paper explanator, the guy that can't do angular size. He says, what does he say? Oh, I've lost it. What did paper explanator just say? I need to pop my chat out because it's going too fast.
Where's the bottom third of the CN tower?
No refraction, remember? It depends on how low that picture was taken to the water, if I'm honest. I mean, if you put that camera right low to the water and you're getting the waves in the front, right in front of the camera, we'd need to see where the camera actually was, because you can recreate that just by being very low to the horizon. So unless someone can show how it was taken, I'm going to say that it was right on top of the waves and you were getting the waves in the foreground. And then deliberately
he's in the chat now, right? So I'd like it from you right now, Al. You're in the chat, you're here. I'd like the GPS coordinates for the exact location, please. Pop them in the chat.
They have them. I think they have all. I think they saw things that they don't want to reveal, and they are withholding information. You wouldn't go all the way down there, spend hours and hours. You know, they have all the equipment. They told us what we need, so of course they know what they need. That's what that they would go down there without GPS. Come on, we can't believe that. Something happened, and they pulled out before.
Spurs, trust me, it's not what they've seen, it's what they failed to see. Because I can tell you now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they saw or didn't see, but something major has happened for them to pull out.
Yeah, trust me, listen to what I'm saying. I've seen the evidence so far, the little snippet that they showed of Isle of Man, and I can tell that the difference in the observation or the difference in the visibility was significant. And I can tell them that they're not going to see the floaty land on the right. They're really not. Otherwise, it'd have been out there straight away, and Riley would be a liar, and he's lied about this, and he's lied about that, and it hasn't happened. So what he's trying to do, Miles, is draw out an episode of the series to try and gain some subs so that he can get to 1,000 and then monetize his account and then pretend that it's all okay, but then criticize flat earthers for making $1 on a show. It's the same MO.
He's let a lot of ballers down. They were relying on him
Oh, they were
down there.
They were.
Well, yeah, they thought he was going to come back and produce, some type of results, but he's obviously spoken with them, and they've all pulled out. For me, that's very strange. It's odd.
So come on, Al. Come on to the show. Show us what you got. Show us your evidence. Because we know you went there to try and debunk me. 2 of you, and you both failed. I wonder, did you take a tape measure with you and measure the height? Because I'd have been doing that if I was you, Al. Did you go measure the height? Did you actually evidence it? Did you do it properly? Did you get some kind of theodolite to make sure that you were dead straight? Because if you didn't take a theodolite, Al, you haven't done it good enough, and we can dismiss it because it's ridiculous.
So Sean Hufford he says something to you. How about that?
Sean Hufford, I've seen a good bit of the footage, Anthony. So glad you are sticking to 52 feet, changed from 35. No, Sean, I haven't changed from 35. I'm using 35 and 52 because they show pretty much the same thing. So I haven't changed. I'm just allowing you the 52 feet, which is the maximum. It's hilarious that you still lie about elevation. No, I'm applying your model, Sean. Your stupid little model of a little ball that doesn't do what you think it does says 52 feet. So how is it a lie, Sean? Do you understand what a lie is, Sean? Sean can't understand what the meaning of the word lie is. 1, is that there is an intention to deceive. 2, about a fact that you know to be wrong. Now, I don't know whether it's wrong or not because I didn't measure it, Sean. However, it's what we're told by your model. So whether it's accurate or not is irrelevant. Am I trying to deceive? No, because it's justified by your little ball that doesn't do what you think it does. So you can see as much of the footage as you want, Sean. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change the fact that your model is sighting my position at 52 feet at the top of the hill and 35 down the bottom part of the hill. It doesn't make any difference. So no, it's not a lie, Sean, because there's no intention to deceive. The only intention to deceive is on your side of the fence. All this nonsense about refractive hidden is a lie, Sean. It's complete and utter mathematics. These people desperately baiting. No. Only people with girly ankles bait, because that's the comment there. That is the bait comment. Anthony's on a high. He'll be insufferable. No, I'm just quite happy with my work. I'm quite happy with the level of critique that it's had, and I'm quite happy that I've stood on my ground on it.
For me, this will be talk of the town. People will say, do you know that people can see Ireland from England? What do you make of that? And people will flock to see the video. And, we've asked for the opposition, if there is an opposition, to give their opinion on if there's anything incorrect. But they've all pulled out before you even presented it. And now you've presented it, they still are in retreat mode. So we're probably going to see the likes of Sean Hufford with a video later on explaining, what you've done wrong and just basically trying to discredit what you've done. But that's pointless because he's here now. He has an opportunity.
Paper Explanator, you are welcome to join the panel and tell us all of these nonsense distractions rather than addressing why there is not an earth curve wall blocking our view of the items we see on the Isle of Man. You seem to be focusing on the fact that there aren't enough other people whistleblowing rather than addressing this problem. So Paper Explanator, clearly you're not boycotting the show and the link is open to you. So stop being a keyboard warrior, get on the panel and tell us why there is not an earth wall in the way of our... Sorry, come here, chicken. In the way of our view, rather than being a keyboard warrior.
And the other thing I'd like to address there with Sean just fails here completely because he says, I had Chris Monk base his model on my lie about elevation. Actually, Chris Monk based his model on your ball earth model. If you'd have watched the show, you'd have seen that he was demonstrating your model and how it fails. He wasn't demonstrating the flat earth model, Sean. He was demonstrating the ball earth. Ranty demonstrated the flat earth. Chris Monk based his model on your model, not on my elevation, Sean, on your model. And he showed how it didn't match the evidence. So you've got your facts wrong again, Sean.
Precise,
or are you just lying?
The elevations were from a LiDAR map. They were scanned from a plane and they're used for military applications. If you want to question the LiDAR map, go question the military.
No, but in any event, he's saying that it was based on my lie about elevation. It wasn't. It was based on his model, which has got nothing to do with my lie about elevation. It's got everything to do with your claim of being at 35 or 52 feet at the elevation that I was at. So it doesn't matter whether I lied about it. I applied your model, Sean. But guess what? The second bit. Footage shows where you were and its height. You're busted. No, Sean, I'm not busted, because even if it comes back in at 100 feet, A, you need 2 miles. B, I didn't measure it. I relied on your model. And C, doesn't represent me in any way. It represents the badness of your own model. So bring it on. Produce the evidence and let's see how wrong your model is. Because it's not proving me wrong, Sean. It's proving your stupid little bally model. Have you got girly ankles as well? Because everybody seems to have girly ankles at the minute.
Yeah, and maybe that was missed by some of the audience. What the purpose of what Chris did was to demonstrate how the ball model fails, and he did it excellently, because he incorporated all of the refractive hidden mathematics. He had all the lines up, he demonstrated it, he made it very clear what he was doing. It's obviously been lost on people like Sean, but your model failed. It failed completely to replicate the observation, and the observation is consistent with a flat Earth. But when modelled using a sphere that you claim it is, it completely fell apart. Like, not just a little bit, totally and utterly failed. The Earth's not a sphere, and that was admirably demonstrated by Chris Monk yesterday using real-world observations, and the mathematics you claim is our world. It's not. It's a fail.
It's a fail. If the observer height is wrong, the model will not work, Nathan. That's exactly the point, Sean. If the observer height is wrong, and you're claiming, your own protagonists are claiming that my observer height was wrong, the model will not work. I'm demonstrating that your model does not work. I am not demonstrating that I am exactly at 35 feet or 52 feet. I'm just showing that your model does not and is not working. I don't think Sean understands the point of what the I don't think he understands what a flat earther's point is.
He needs to go and watch number 107 and listen to all of the Globers tell us exactly how wrong Google Earth is. This was the point they stepped out. Essentially, when we had them on the ropes having to tell us how broken their model was, that's when they left. So you want to listen to how broken Google is, go listen to your own kind tell you.
Sean Hufford, and the observer height is wrong in Chris's model. Well, Sean, I wasn't there I didn't have a tape measure, so I wasn't able to tape measure it. I used your model. So if it is wrong, it doesn't make any difference. We're still seeing a 2 miles worth of no curve, Sean. So even if my height is wrong, I still need 2 miles to pull it back. So you can add it to 100 feet if you want. You can add it to half a mile. You can add it to a mile. We're still seeing that land.
Good new guest.
I'm not going to give 2 miles. How much do you want me to bend the rules?
How are you doing, new guest?
It was a sniper.
Sniper.
It was a
yeah,
sniper.
the only trouble is, Nate, if you block off the icons, we can't see whether they leave straight away or not.
Sure. But if I don't block off the icons, potentially they could play pornography in them.
Yeah, so it's okay. I'm onto this. I'm ready for it. I've been sniping them out as soon as they've come in.
Ranty, how dare you snipe them?
No, I'm sniping the snipers before they snipe the hangout.
Yeah. If they don't speak immediately, then it's going to be an echo chamber. And it's caused...
Yeah, go on.
Oh, look at this here. Mark Taylor shows the evidence that the Earth is accelerated upwards at 9.8 meters squared. I haven't ever said that the Earth's accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters squared.
That's a Flat Earth Society meme. What a moron. None of us credit the Flat Earth Society. We're not living on a disc hurtling up through space, Mark. Space is a nonsense.
Seeds of Doubt says, all Flat Earth people will be silenced if any evidence appears. You really think they don't make more of an effort to hide it? Listen, my position is this. I believe I was looking at Ireland on both sides of the Isle of Man. If it turns out to be the case that they've got that floaty land on the right-hand side of Isle of Man, then it was simply optical and it was something weird, right? And it may well be Isle of Man. However, the scale that we've measured it to and based it all on is supporting it not being the Isle of Man. But in any event, if it turns out I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it appears evidently that they've failed to repeat the observation that I got. And that would be because the atmosphere was thicker. There was more obstruction in the atmosphere, more moisture, more smog, more heat, more humidity, more whatever, basically reducing the distance you can see. Because if it was wrong, they'd have been straight on it like a fly on a piece of dog poo. They haven't done it though, have they?
If you join the show, immediately speak. So leave your microphone open and say hello the second you join.
The only people that are going to join are the gatekeepers. That's it. No baller has dared come in because literally they're all on strict orders to boycott.
Well, they're not boycotting. They're watching the show. They're literally adding to my metrics. So Lou in the backup channel, you're welcome on. You're just a keyboard warrior. You've got nothing. That's why you're not here. Because you're watching. You're here. You're not boycotting. That's not a boycott.
Means.
Yeah, boycott means shut the door on your way out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're just cowards. You've got nothing to challenge us with. If you did, you'd be here. Because we're not on Skype. This isn't a one-sided circle jerk. You're welcome to join. We're all on the Hangout. None of us have been sniped.
Nathan, Matt Taylor wants to know where the evidence of the Earth accelerating upwards is. Have you ever said that the Earth was accelerated upwards, Nathan?
No.
No.
No, that's
Neither
nonsense. That's the nonsense of the Flat Earth Society, isn't it?
Yeah,
they
straw
claim
man.
it's going up at 9.8. Well, it's an acceleration. So
it's the proof that the Flat Earth Society's
explanation is a nonsense again, because it's not going at 9.8 meters a second. It's accelerating at that. Now, that means it requires relativity for that to ever work for you as a individual jumping or whatever, isn't it? So
the only reason that meme exists is because Flat Earth Society, who are part of the mainstream narrative, essentially need you to still believe in space if you are on a flat Earth. So if you come to flat Earth, they will push the idea of gravity, and that's how it's necessitated in a disc Earth instead of a globe-shaped Earth, hurtling up through space. That's what they claim. It's complete nonsense.
Everything Mark Taylor says is nonsense.
That's when you can understand him.
Honestly, I've never ever come across anyone quite so stupid.
Mark Taylor asks, that's your flat Earth model? No, it isn't. My flat Earth model is there is no model because I don't have any money to be able to create one. But I don't believe that we're moving upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's nonsense. However, my model, we don't have one, but we also have no budget to create one. So my model doesn't exist, doesn't work, but it actually doesn't work because it doesn't exist, not because it is a model. Oh, and by the way, Sean, if you're going to quote my words, at least get them right. I didn't say what you said I said. It was different. I put it in text to correct you. The backup channel, Sleeping Warrior, use Blender. We did use Blender. We used Blender to show that your curved model does not work. It does not match the observation. Why would anyone say... There you go, seeds of doubt. Why would anybody accept something that does not exist? Yet we have about 20 people lurking in chat that believe and accept that we live on a spherical Earth with curvature that nobody is able to prove. Nobody can prove. Yet you all believe it. Every one of you that sat there in chat believes and accepts something that does not exist. And you're all grown adults. Honestly, I could believe it more if you believed in Santa. Because at least when you believe in Santa, you've got plausible deniability. But you're all adults. Why are you believing stuff that doesn't exist?
Santa don't exist?
Apparently not. I've never seen real Santa. I keep seeing 3 Santas every time I go to the Trafford Centre.
Mark Taylor's
looking down at your belly.
I'm one of them eating all the mince pies. It's in my belly. Blackpool Tower is closer than Ireland, and you couldn't see Blackpool Tower. Yeah, but it's also a lot smaller. You know, inverse square law, perspective. Things get smaller as they go away. Blackpool Tower's only 400.
Can I chip in on that one? Because when you first did these observations, we discussed that, and it's been discussed with skyscrapers and that. And whilst angular resolution would postulate that you're getting a reduction in height, so those big cliffs look really small. But also, it's not just the height that angular resolution is applied to; it's the width.
Correct.
So if you apply that, how thin would Blackpool Tower be? The only way you're going to see Blackpool Tower is if it's got the lights on, and you'll see the lights, but you will never be able to observe the width of Blackpool Tower from that distance.
And I did plan on going there to try and get the lights, but when I saw it was that far away and that small, and when I tried to go up there at night time and focus in on the black of night, the P900 will not focus in on the black of night when it's that far away. It looks for it, but it's looking in amongst the black against different shades of black, and it doesn't know what you're looking for. So unless you know exactly where you're looking at, and even bearings aren't accurate enough, I know roughly where I'm looking at based on the topography of the land.
I must interject here, because what they're trying to say is that the observation that you did about the Isle of Man is irrelevant simply because you couldn't see Blackpool Tower. And I completely disagree with that, because we have evidence that you've actually seen Ireland. Whether or not you actually saw Blackpool Tower in a different location at a different time is completely irrelevant. That evidence stands on its own. The Isle of Man evidence is proof enough.
And do you know what's even more?
Don't get distracted with that Blackpool Tower stuff. Whether you went to go and try and film that or not, it makes no difference. What you did see was Ireland at 145 miles away, and that's it.
And the other thing,
if I go and see my mum, right, and she's not in, and my dad's there, it doesn't mean I didn't see my dad. It just means my mum weren't there at that time. I couldn't see my mum. It doesn't indicate what you do see. It's a negative argument, isn't it? Again.
Well,
yeah, I like distract.
I like it when I like it when they say things like, "Oh, well, Soundly shows lovely the shape of the Earth," and then you realise that Soundly's observation is at 16 miles. 16 miles, what? And you claim that's the curvature of the Earth. Are you ridiculous?
Tiny
Earth. I've replicated that, dude. For Ranty, I did it out of Lego. And the curve.
He did.
Well, 16 miles out of 140 miles, which is the Isle of Man observation, and the island observation is 11.4% of the distance that we did ours at. So imagine the curvature that we would see. And Soundy seems to get it all the time in that swamp donkey that area that he's in. And we're seeing it all the time, apparently. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe there is something geological there that we can't explain very easy. It is in a swamp area. It is in a sump. It's in the bottom of a, whatever you want to call it. And it's considered to be Pontchartrain Basin. It's not called Lake Pontchartrain, but that area is called the Basin. So it's like, maybe he is getting something weird there to explain what he sees. But it's 10% of the distance that we're talking about here. And yet you morons think that somehow the curvature of the Earth is evidence and completely negate the argument and dismiss out instantly the fact that it's atmospheric and optical. And you believe and worship King Soundly based on 16 miles. 16 miles. I can piss further than that, guys.
Nathan, I'm going to jump off and come. I'm at home now. So I'll jump off, get on my PC, and I'll show you the Soundly replications I've done with a bit of Lego on my tabletop. And my mobile phone to give the same effect of what Soundly's doing. So I'll jump off and come straight back in if that's all right.
Yeah. Alex Quent. Cool. Anthony is going to try and debunk Soundly's careful research. 16 miles is all you need. You don't need anything more than Soundly's own. I mean, Soundly proved that light bends up as well as down when he did his 8 lanterns on 8 posts. I mean, that in itself proves that light bends up as well as down, yet he always shows it as bending down. So he's basically contradicted his own observation by that, which he claims wasn't the results, but it was enough results that we ever needed to see. Paul, the stupid physicist. If you see an island, then where is the lowland of Isle of Man? Paul, did you not? Where is the lowland of Isle of Man? Did you not watch the hangout last night, Paul? We showed it. It was evidenced in the hangout last night. If you didn't see it, Paul, go back and watch it. We showed the lowland of Isle of Man, evidenced in the evidence that you've got a copy of, and you could find it yourself. Ah, Paul, another fail. Huh? Pete Shea, you're not coming in?
Got Adam with us now. Do you want to let us know when you're ready and I'll present you?
Yeah, you'll have to bear with me.
Yeah, no worries. Just let us know.
I don't want to show the Hangouts. Let me just move the screen so I can hide that bit in
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The Hangout link is published.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair point, Morgan. Okay, so if I just, can you see what I've got to do? Go to share screen.
If it's a program when you click share screens, there's 2 tabs. One is application window and one is screen. So just pick the application window tab and then pick whatever it is you want to share.
Do you want to address Paul in chat? Paul Voigt, the self-proclaimed physicist.
Well, I'm not because my kid's banging around.
School teacher, by the way.
Can you see his comment, Nath?
I can, but my kid's playing with bricks, so it's quite noisy here. You go ahead.
Oh, right, okay. Paul Voigt says, if you're seeing Ireland, Anthony, then why can't you see the tall mountains to the left? Paul, have you even looked at the evidence? That's exactly what we're looking at, you Burke. Oh, Anthony, another fail. No, Paul. Just another lie from another baller that doesn't know the difference between truth and fiction. You're a nonsense person, Paul. You're a self-proclaimed physicist that knows all the sums, probably, but probably you're actually a high school teacher and no more. You don't realize that what you're looking at is optical. It's totally and utterly the consequence of looking through dirty air, and you think it's the curve of the Earth. Paul, you're a nonsense, Paul. And when you start, it's glorious when you get cornered because you go, as if you haven't heard the question and you know damn well that you're cornered. You've done it twice now.
Can you see that, Nathan? That's my Lego bridge.
I'm just about to present you. Yes, I'm just about to present you to the audience.
Train.
Yes, I got it. Brilliant.
Okay, so that's basically about 5 foot long worth of Lego, and you can see there I've took a picture with the phone, and then I've put on this yellow line, which is the top of the bridge, just to demonstrate that it's flat from that observation viewpoint. I then did the same thing there by moving the camera slightly and a different lens. You can give the appearance of curvature of the earth. Look, it goes up and then down, and if I was to want to had a better bit of camera and kit, I'm sure I could take the real Pontchartrain and achieve exactly the same results. I'm not saying that's how Soundly has done it, but I am saying that's a way that it's falsifiable to achieve those results by using optics, angling, and placement of the thing you're trying to reference or exemplify, putting it in a particular part of a zoomed in image of a certain type of lens.
You don't have something underneath those legs propping it up to give it a curved appearance?
That's exactly the same bridge taken at the same time with a different lens at a different angle. Nothing's changed in the bridge. The image is the bridge, which is, I'll just show you.
So you must have changed your aperture then. Is it your aperture that you've changed to do that?
Yeah. So what you do, basically, if you look at Soundly's website, you see a lot of his images have got soft edges, or he's zoomed in a little bit. So that's a picture of the bridge just with my phone. You pop the fisheye lens and then angle it so that the bridge sits in the top corner on the stretchiest part. That gives you that optical image what Soundly's done. That makes sense. So let me show you. So what you do is go to, let's take this image here. It's a good example of it. You see it's a fisheye. So then you just zoom in on this section of the fisheye, and you can see, look, if you place it in a particular part, the curvature of the lens is what creates that up and down effect as the lens. You see what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
So that's a way I've been able to falsify his image just with Lego and a fisheye lens on my mobile phone. And all I've done then is just zoom in on that section there, look, and that's the image that gets generated. If you don't use a fisheye lens and you take it with your normal phone camera, that's the image you get, a flat image of reality.
Absolutely awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Lego.
So Lego debunks Soundly. Is that
Lego debunks Soundly perfectly, yeah.
Love it.
And it is flat. The only point, look, here is, and this is me being a bit anal, you can see these 2 bricks here, look, I've not quite pushed them down. So it's not 100% flat, but it's flat.
Oh, you faked it. You faked it. You didn't push your Lego bricks down at the beginning.
See, but that is, you know, the way.
I would have made it concave anyway. If it was levy up at that end, it would be a concave bridge, wouldn't it?
See.
Sean Hufford says, Nathan Oakley, how about you mention that the P900 does not have interchangeable lenses, which Soundly's videos are all done with the P900? Well, not all of his videos are done with the P900. He done them with the Canon Rebel, so that's factually wrong anyway, Sean. But secondly, it does have a screw thread on the end, which you can attach lenses to, because you can put filters on the end of them. It wouldn't surprise me if he's found some kind of distortion lens that you could screw to the end of it to make it look that way. I haven't looked, but I'm sure I could find something that would screw on. In fact, I'm going to do it now, actually. Let's try it. Let's see if that's true. Let's see if we can find something.
Stick a lens on the end of your P900. I could do that with mine. Stick a fisheye on it.
Put some cling film on the end of it.
I've got a fisheye lens for my iPhone, just clips on, and there's various different fisheye lenses that you can literally just stick onto any random phone. So if you can do it with a bloody phone, I'm pretty sure you can do it with a £300 camera.
No, he's right to say that you can't take the lens off on the P900, but he's incorrect to say that you can't put attachments on the other end of it. And you can. You can put on the other end of it. It's got a screw thread. You can put a solar filter on it. So it wouldn't surprise me if Soundly's found a little bit of trick photography, because he seems to have the only P900 camera that shows special curvature. Nobody else seems to get that, only him. And it only seems to be there. So it's either something geological in his area or it's something weird with his camera. But in any event, you can put attachments on the P900, Sean. So factually, again, you've got your facts wrong. How many more facts do you want to get wrong, Sean?
You should do a fact keeping.
Oh, and by the way, let's remind Liley that he claims to be able to see a chimney with smoke and all, but can't see Blackpool Tower, which is much closer. Well, actually, Paul, Blackpool Tower was 50 miles away. Ireland is 85. So it is closer, but everybody argues that it's Isle of Man that we're looking at. And if it was the Isle of Man at 30 miles away, we'd see that stack would be blatantly obvious, and we're not able to find it. It's somewhere in Ireland, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. But because Paul can't scale, he doesn't understand that point, and I'm not going to explain it to him other than just laugh at him because he can't understand how scale works. But all the ballers do this thing with scale. Another comment, Riley the Liley hasn't actually provided anyone with bearings to anything, so how can he have proved anything?
Why do you respond to them? If they want to speak, get them to come into the chat and say it with their own voices.
Because he's an idiot, and I want to point out to people how he's an idiot.
No, they've got an open panel. There's no snipers in here, so get them in. If they want to boycott, tell them to shut up in the chat and go somewhere else.
No, I quite enjoy laughing at Paul.
Sit with Soundly.
Yeah, but you can't boycott Tesco's and buy from them online. That's cheap.
I boycott Tesco's. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You can't just text in. You're either boycotting or you're not. Surely it's
boycott's a boycott, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were actually discussing whether how much of a boycott this was, because if you boycott Tesco,
get back to some Soundly bashing. Forget what they're saying in chat. Let's get back to the Soundly stuff. Great stuff, Adam. By the way, loved that.
Thank you too. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. If you can do it at that scale. If you can do it at that tiny scale with Lego, then, you know, that's proof of concept. That's excellent.
Yeah.
I can only thank my wife for my Christmas present, Nathan. That was those, you see that black lens there? Look, there's the photo one. It had the fisheye and little strap-ons. And I was just mucking around with it and seeing what it was doing. And it just, like I say, if you look at Soundly's live channel, look in the corners, you'll see the images. They've got this kind of soft blurring. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, surely, is that how he's done it? Or at least that way of being able to replicate it. What?
A lot of them are out of focus as well.
It is very hard to focus it because, like I say, what you're trying to do is the camera.
Hold on, we've got a new guest. Bear with me, Adam. We've got Negator X here. How are you doing, Negator? Can you hear us? You're gonna have to say something, or I'm gonna kick you.
Did he jump off?
No, he's still here, but he's not saying anything, so he's going to get ejected because you need to say hello.
I'll let him have 5-10 seconds here.
No, I've already kicked him. If you're going to join the panel, you know, Negator XX has got a microphone. I know he has. So what people are now doing is recreating people like Negator XX and Arev and various different smaller YouTubers so that they can get in and assume that I won't kick them because they often come in and don't talk. Well, you know, if you don't want to come in and talk, there's no point in being here. So if you join the panel and just sit there in silence, I can't tell whether you're a sniper with someone else's icon or not, and I'll kick you. You know, that's the reality of it. If you're going to join the panel, you're here to talk. You need to talk immediately. That's why I immediately interrupt whoever's talking and say, hi, new guest. If I don't get a response, I'll kick you out, because obviously you're not here to talk.
Ranty made another good point there, in terms of a lot of pictures are out of focus, and that I only have limited the camera knowledge, but from trying to replicate this, the reason they will be is because actually somewhere down here is where the center of focus of the fisheye is, and what you're trying to do is get something that's in the upper part of the lens into focus, but the camera's always trying to focus this part down here. So that's why this is so blurry and the camera looks a bit ropey, is because actually this is the edge of the fisheye, and actually the center of the lens is round here. Well, it's probably around here somewhere. That's why this is more focused here, look. But as you get down and down, you're getting right to the edge of the fisheye lens here, which is why it's all blurry and
Richard Bailey, do you want to speak?
Perfect.
Yeah,
He's joined with his
everybody.
camera on. Couldn't be a better guest. Thank you for joining with your camera on. You don't have to keep it on though if you don't want to, Richard. But good to have you
No,
here.
it's fine. I'm not. I'm just pleased about the outcome you all made. I was looking at Shouty's clip last night. His art. Is it a roadway going over a river? You want to see that?
No.
Oh, you mean
Well,
Soundly? You mean Soundly?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, and I couldn't help but think it was a composite. There are that many of these things. It almost looked like 100 of these damn towers, you know, and it had been like cut and pasted together. I just found it quite amusing that.
Well, we actually have an explanation for why it looks like there are so many towers in Soundly's observation with the towers. I'm not going to paraphrase it, but what I will say is that at some point we need to get Chris back on with his model and demonstrate why it is that there appears to be so many pylons, way more than what there actually is in real world.
Yeah.
There is an actual flat Earth explanation for that, and nobody will expect it. But he was playing around with optics and mirrors and lenses and stuff, and he's realised that there's something else going on that nobody's realised, and at some point we need to let him show it. And now, whilst there's a sabbatical on, it might be the case that he should come on and show that because he'll get a chance to speak.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I would like
there definitely is an explanation for it, and it's a mind blowing. But to be honest, I don't think it's something that we would be able to use against them because I don't think they would even realise it themselves. But when he
come on, Anthony, stop hogging the mic. Let him speak a bit.
Sorry,
I don't think they want to. I don't think they want to address it. I mean, when you've got such vehement views about something, it's very hard to change your way of thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, that's called cognitive dissonance.
Sorry to do this, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt the conversation. Sorry to interrupt.
When you agree with both sides of an argument, you know. and you can't
sorry to interrupt you, Richard. Just 1 second. So we've got Negator XX in the audience. Sorry, Richard. Bear with me. Sorry, we've got Negator XX, and I've just kicked him out because he didn't get his mic open quick enough, and he has gone back in chat and said, "Look, my daughter muted me. I'm sorry." But what he's claiming is, let's just actually read his comment word for word. Because I was saying, how can you? He's saying it's not a fisheye, and I said, well, how can you debunk that claim? And he says because presumably Soundly's images don't hump in the center of frame, which is where a fisheye humps and where the Legos humped. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but you said that you cropped it at the top of the image as opposed to the center of the image. Is that correct?
Yeah. Let me go to one of the images that I've taken, and you'll see where I've cropped it from in relation to that. It's there you go, look. You can see the center of the frame is there, look. I've cropped it out of there. And I'm not saying Soundly. What I'm saying is here's a method to achieve the same results using just a mobile phone and some Lego.
What was the lens that you used to make it bend like that?
It's literally just one of those screw-on fisheye lenses that you put onto your, well, mine's a Samsung, but onto a smartphone.
I wonder if you can get a 67 millimeter fisheye. There you go. You can buy a 67 millimeter, which is the size for the P900 round adapter for the camera. And they call it an underwater camera 200 millimeter fisheye wide angle lens dome. Oh, this might be worth showing. Let me put this on, Nathan, and see what you think.
So I stop.
Pardon?
There you go, I've stopped.
Right, so let me just show this and tell me what you think. I mean, I literally I started doing it before, but then got sidetracked. But the P900 has a 67. That won't be rich. It's just sniping. That won't be rich. And if that is the real Rich, if you send me a message on Skype, Rich, I can sort it out so that you come back in. But if it's not,
I've got Rich on Skype. If he wanted to join, he'd have sent me a message.
Yeah. Right. So the lens here, it wouldn't surprise me if he spent 75 quid and he's bought something like this. Nikon underwater camera, 200 millimeter fisheye wide angle lens, dome port case shade cover. round adapter for camera. This optical fisheye lens is a multifunction lens designed for fisheye or wide-angle lenses. It can be attached to, let's see what it can attach to. All kinds of waterproof DSLR ILDC cases with a 67mm lens, I'll say. Yeah, there's the adapter ring on the back. I wonder, would it be worth buying one of them and then going somewhere that I know is flat, for example, St. Bees, and then seeing if I could make things disappear? Yeah, because I wonder whether he's got something like that. 67mm, super wide angle lens, macro lens for Canon, Nikon, Sony, 28 quid.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, is this the first time you've been on the panel?
No, it's not. It's not the first time, but the first time I came on was a bit of a disaster.
Okay.
I got a little overwhelmed with Grim and another character called Mad Dog or something with a green eye, and I sort of falling asleep on them because they were throwing all these technical theories at me. And basically, he was showing me a ball because he was saying, "Oh, you understand that the Earth's a ball, a globe, you know." And I started off debating whether the Earth was a globe or an oblique spheroid or pear-shaped, as Neil deGrasse Tyson was describing it in one of his talks. And it occurred to me that it couldn't possibly be a globe because if it is spinning, then you've got centrifugal forces acting upon it, and it's pulling everything out towards the equator.
Correct.
So it's not going to be a globe. So then you've got an oblique spheroid. And then what really sort of gave me a red alert is when he actually started talking about, because of gravity, it started to billow towards the bottom, towards the southern hemispheres, and and you're sort of getting a pear shape. And I thought, well, you know, where'd you go with this rock that's both it's a globe, it's an oblique spheroid, and it's pear shaped, you know, and at best I could only resolve that it could be a oblique spheroid if it was in fact a globe, you know, a sphere spinning around, and I just found that really sort of impossible to reconcile, because the problem is if you accept gravity as a real phenomenon, then gravity is pulling everything towards the center. So gravity is spread evenly, it's pulling everything evenly toward it. So how can you have a pear-shaped planet? See what I mean? Because it's spinning on its axis of 23.6 degrees off the vertical. So you know,
Antonio's done a nice diagram on that, how centrifugal force is opposes gravity,
yeah,
on the globe based on the point of rotation. And
yeah, you've also got centripetal, which is pulling it back in. So it's as it's spinning, it's both contracting and expanding. So it's a bit like, you know, it's a bit like a rubber band, you know, because of the forces acting upon it in theory, but it's being pulled and it's being compressed and contracted. So, you know, so are we also being compressed? And, you know, do you see what I mean? Because if it's a phenomenon, then everything works both ways. It don't just work one way, but everything's got a counterpart to it, if you see what I mean.
Well, the good thing about the boycott that they've been doing is that it's allowing people like yourself to join the panel and take that step and actually click the link and come in and get your voice heard. Because up until this point, I could guarantee that there would be 9 ballers in here. You wouldn't be able to get in.
Yeah. I've been watching it regularly, and the thing that finalised it for me is when they started talking about refraction. When the Isle of Man?
Yeah.
Was that Well, as soon as they started talking about that, and effectively what they were saying was they were literally humping that lighthouse over the curve of the Earth, over 900 feet of curvature, over 50 miles, and that's just impossible. You not only got that, but if you think about it, if you're 50 miles away from that lighthouse, and you are on a curved Earth, not only is it dropping, but it's also arcing away from you. If you see what I mean, because you're on a compound, so it shouldn't even be upright. It should be sort of, as you look at it, it should almost be like it's tilting away from you.
Yeah, like 11, pointing to 11 o'clock, perhaps.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, because you're on a globe, right? It's on a compound, effectively, and it should be sort of arcing away from you, not just dropping down, but arcing away. So it'd be impossible to see it. And I knew then that was the end. That was the final clincher for me. That could be seen under those circumstances. If the gradient chart, the graph works, then there's obviously a huge contradiction between what we're observing and what we're being told is fact. Yeah. Does that make sense, or am I waffling too much?
No, I agree. I agree with you. It's got to the point where it becomes blatantly obvious that the lies, the fantasy, the nonsense that these people have got to push our way to try and persuade us not to believe what we're looking at, and it's all illusion. It becomes Paul literally believes that with enough zoom and a clear enough day, you could see your own arse in a telescope.
Yeah, well, you can't, because if you have line of sight, which is what cameras generally work from, I can't see how it can follow the curve of the Earth. It can only literally just zoom out, So effectively, if you had the zoom ability, you just simply zoom out into space, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because if you've got a curvature on the Earth, as it's falling away and you're zooming out, you're just zooming out into space, aren't you?
Well, they say refraction bends.
That's precisely what you'd see.
Yeah. So you'd just be looking into space. So you can't have shit being humped over huge chasms of distance and curvature with refraction. Jesus Christ.
Sorry to interrupt, guys. We've got Lou again, and sorry to interrupt, guys. Sorry, we've got Lou on the panel, or was on the panel until he decided to boycott the show and then become a keyboard warrior from chat, who claims we can't see past the hump of water he thinks is there. We can't see past the horizon. He can't seem to cognitively process that we do see these lighthouses, Lou. We can see them. The horizon is not blocking our view, Lou. Maybe you'd like to come on the panel and actually challenge it rather than just spew nonsense.
Don't bother bringing Lou on. He's an idiot.
He is an idiot. He thinks there's an obstruction.
He thinks correct. There is no hump in the way of water obscuring your view if you're on a ball viewing it. Everything is below your feet, because that maths model shows that they are changing the direction of gravity and moving you back. Yeah, they're falsifying the model, the graphical representation of what you're observing, to create a hump. The hump isn't there because it is below your feet. It's been alluded to. All you're going to do is look out into space. That's the maths that needs drawing, that actually moves out in a straight line, and everything curves starting at your feet below.
Yeah, but that's what we've just been working out this week, isn't it? This is what we've been getting to, and so technically, yes, he is correct, but ultimately, it's more in akin now with the flat Earth than it is with the ball Earth. That his ball model is saying that you shouldn't be able to see that, and this is what he can't understand.
We've got about 5 minutes left on this broadcast, just so you know.
You gotta sort of look at it from their point of view. That's what they believe.
Yeah, but you got to look at it from our point of view, and we demand evidence that proves it to be true.
That's right. You're presenting what is observable. Yeah. And now what they're doing is they're saying, well, we've got the maths to bear this out, right? But what they're not doing is they're not actually going out there and really soaking up what they see around them.
But
they're
Richard,
not really taking it in.
Richard, their position is having the maths explains it is like when I say to you, if Richard has 2 ice creams and I have 2 ice creams, how many ice creams are there? And I can see in your hand you have no ice creams, and you can see in my hand I have no ice creams. So the math says that you've got 4, but the reality says there ain't no ice creams. So having the maths to explain stuff doesn't mean it's true.
That's right.
But
it works for them. You've got to remember it works for them.
I would say that represents a flat plane observation with a mountain in the middle. That's the maths that they've drawn, is flat plane observation with a mountain, or their hump, as they call it. That's what they're creating, is a hill on a flat plane. And they use how the horizon changes to generate the bit of maths for that. But none of that maths relates to reality on a ball. It relates to reality on a flat plane with a hill between the observer and the point being moved.
But the thing is that you've also, I saw a very interesting post a couple of days ago about the AE map and how it was used in World War II to guide bombing raids. I don't know if anyone saw that, but I found that very interesting, that they actually, the Air Forces at the time were actually using the AE map to guide them on their bombing runs. You imagine hundreds of planes, I mean, hundreds of bombers, you know, in formation, following a flat map to its destination.
I don't mean to interrupt here, but I just need to interject. Paul claims that we can't see Ramsey. Can you, Nathan Oakley? But it's closer than Ireland. It's a whole city. No, it's not, Paul. It doesn't have a cathedral, so it's a town. Let's just get that bit factually correct, Paul. It doesn't have its own cathedral. By definition, it's a town. It's not a city. It's a town. But you can see a chimney in Ireland with smoke coming out of it. Well, so you've seen the video, right, Paul? But you refuse to accept. So you've dismissed the evidence that the lighthouse is evident in the evidence that you've got a copy of, and it shows the bottom peninsula of Isle of Man, and you've dismissed it. Yet claiming in chat right now that we can't see the lowlands of Isle of Man. How dishonest of you, Paul. How dishonest of you to dismiss that when you've got the evidence that proves it to be true. You're a fraud, Paul. You're a faker. You're a fraud. You might as well rebrand yourself as, let's think of other frauds common in history. Soundly, maybe. Go with anything you want. You're a liar, Soundly. Fraud. Paul, damn it.
Yeah, but are they frauds and dishonest, or are they just simply relaying what they believe to be true? You've got to remember, you're talking about vehement points of view which are like cast in stone.
Yeah, I think that the likes of GeoStreamer is that indoctrinated by the system that he probably genuinely believes it. I think that Paper Explanator probably does as well.
Yeah, why wouldn't you believe that?
I think Sean Hufford genuinely believes it. He played a role in the army to do with satellite communications, so he probably does believe it. But I realise that Slice Barkane, he clearly is intelligent enough to work it out. He demonstrates CAD, and he knows if he can demonstrate CAD and CAD drawings and stuff, he knows that we are not living on a ball. He knows that it's something else, and it appears to be flat. But I don't believe for a moment that he honestly believes it. But there are people that do believe it. Paul probably believes it. He's probably indoctrinated with his high school teaching. But in any event, most people believe it, which is why most people in NASA, for example, will never blow the whistle because they believe it. But there's only 1 or 2 people in the upper epsilons of NASA, etc., that would actually realize that the Earth that we live on is not what they're telling us. And there's a massive absence of evidence. Like, why don't they show a rocket taking off and just leave the camera showing backwards all the way? They never do it. Never do it. They never spin the ISS camera around and show like all the 360 degree. And even if they did, I wouldn't believe it if they saw me, because we know that the ISS is some kind of underwater tank thing.
They do have a underwater. They do have an underwater training facility, yeah, for sure. I mean that exists. I mean, I do have a problem with. I mean, I can go out on a clear night and I can look up and I can see what I think's the stars, and then I can put on the news and look at and the guy's reading the weather and they're showing you the globe, you know, and above the globe you've got the night. There's no stars there.
About 20 seconds and I'm going to end this show. So You can round out your point. You got about 20 seconds.
And that kind of makes me wonder, you know, why would you kind of leave that out, you know?
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe, comment, and like this video. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next one.